Every man on Earth has basically the same set of built-in primal weaknesses. These are things like a woman's physical beauty. If you are aware of these weaknesses, women will rarely be able to use them to control you. If you are not, well, you can guess what happens next. Here are 20 male weaknesses that women can potentially use to control you. Number 1. A man's ego is easier to feed than his hunger. The fastest way to control a man is not through attention, but through validation. In psychology, this is called ego maintenance. It is the need to feel important, respected, and seen. Imagine a man who prides himself on being the smartest in the room. A woman does not challenge that directly. She amplifies it. She might say, "You always think differently from everyone else." That one line keeps him chasing that feeling around her. Once she becomes the source of his pride, she becomes the quiet controller of his mood, behavior, and choices. He does not realize she is feeding the leash, not his worth. Number 2. A man's need to fix things can be turned against him. Men often feel valuable when they can solve problems. In behavioral science, this is called the hero response. A clever woman can use it by always appearing to need small forms of help without ever asking outright. Imagine she says, "I could never figure this out," while holding something trivial. He steps in eagerly, thinking he is being useful, but he is being trained. Each time he solves something for her, he builds an emotional pattern of dependency, believing her comfort equals his purpose. It sounds harmless, but it makes her the emotional center of his actions. Number 3. A man's loyalty can make him blind. Once a man decides someone is his person, he begins defending her even when logic says not to. In cognitive psychology, this is called confirmation bias. Imagine a friend warning him that the woman he is seeing manipulates people. Instead of listening, he takes offense and protects her reputation. The more she tests that loyalty, the tighter the bond becomes because he believes his defense equals love. A woman who understands this can quietly rewrite his reality without ever raising her voice. Number 4. A man's fear of losing control often controls him. Some men hate the feeling of being powerless, but that fear itself can be used against them. In behavioral psychology, this is called reverse dominance. Imagine a woman acting unpredictably, pulling away just enough to make him chase. The harder he tries to regain control, the more reactive he becomes. She stays calm, he spirals. Eventually, he mistakes his own obsession for deep connection. The truth is, she controls the tempo of his emotions simply by staying still while he tries to fix the imbalance she created. Number 5. A man's pride in being logical makes him emotionally predictable. Many men believe they are rational creatures, but in psychology, logic often masks emotion. A woman can use this by creating small emotional triggers that make him defend his logic. Imagine her saying softly, "You always think you are right." He then argues to prove that he is objective, not emotional, ironically doing the opposite. She controls the frame by forcing him to react under the illusion that he is still calm. The more he insists he is not emotional, the more emotional he becomes. Number 6. A man's visual weakness can override his boundaries. In neuroscience, visual stimulus bypasses logic faster than words. A woman who knows this uses presence, not persuasion. Imagine a serious conversation where a man plans to end things or stand firm, but she walks in calm, confident, glowing, saying very little. His speech shortens, his certainty weakens, and his emotional state shifts before reason can keep up. She wins not through argument, but through physiology. The eyes surrender before the mind has time to argue. Number 7. A man's habit of over-explaining himself gives away control. In conversation dynamics, whoever talks more holds less power. Many men lose frame because they feel the need to justify every feeling, every decision, every moment of silence. Imagine her asking calmly, "Why did you say it that way?" He then begins explaining, clarifying, defending. She listens quietly, saying very little, and suddenly she is in charge of the narrative. The more he explains, the less confident he appears, and the more she learns what words affect him most. Number 8. A man's competitive nature can be redirected. Men are naturally wired to compete for status. In social psychology, competition is linked to identity. A woman can control this by creating invisible rivals. Imagine her casually saying, "My coworker never gives up on anything." The man hearing that may not realize it, but he begins adjusting his behavior to prove his own drive. She never asked him to. She just redirected his instinct for competition away from other men and into her approval. That is influence disguised as inspiration. Number 9. A man's craving for peace can make him surrender too soon. Many men avoid conflict because they equate peace with control. In relationships, this becomes a hidden trap. Imagine a man arguing for something important to him, and she suddenly goes quiet, looking hurt. The silence feels heavier than words, so he apologizes just to restore peace. She now knows his emotional price, discomfort. Every future disagreement becomes easier for her to win because she can purchase control through withdrawal instead of force. His calm nature becomes her strategy. Number 10. A man's desire to feel chosen clouds his judgment. Men rarely admit how deeply they crave exclusivity. In evolutionary psychology, being chosen satisfies the deepest validation circuit in the brain. Imagine a woman saying, "I do not open up like this with anyone else." The man immediately feels special, different, even lucky. He stops thinking critically because his ego has been crowned. From that moment, she controls his focus because he will now defend the bond as rare, even if it is carefully manufactured. The belief in being chosen is often stronger than truth itself. Number 11. A man's guilt response can be used to steer him. Guilt is one of the strongest emotional motivators in human behavior. In psychology, guilt triggers the instinct to restore balance. A woman who understands this does not need to yell or demand. She only needs to show subtle disappointment. Imagine her saying quietly, "I thought you cared more," then walking away. No argument follows, but his mind starts racing to fix things. He apologizes, explains, or offers something to ease her silence. The moment he acts from guilt instead of reason, she owns the emotional direction of the exchange. Number 12. A man's fear of rejection makes him overcompensate. Men are often taught to chase approval, not comfort with rejection. In behavioral research, rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. A woman can sense this easily. Imagine her pulling back her warmth slightly after a period of affection. The man immediately feels anxious and starts doubling his effort to regain her closeness. She does not have to ask for attention. She creates demand through absence. The more he fears losing her acceptance, the more predictable and controllable his behavior becomes. Number 13. A man's hunger for recognition shapes his loyalty. Recognition is oxygen for ambition. In motivational psychology, the person who praises your effort becomes the one you subconsciously serve. Imagine a man grinding at work, ignored by most, but one woman consistently says, "I see how hard you work." Over time, her opinion becomes more valuable than his boss's. She becomes his emotional anchor, even if she never asks for it. That emotional loyalty shifts his focus toward her approval rather than his own goals, and she quietly becomes the compass behind his effort. Number 14. A man's patience fades faster than he admits. Many men lose control not through anger but through exhaustion. In stress research, mental fatigue lowers discipline and decision-making. A woman who senses this will never fight him directly when he is calm. She waits until he is tired, distracted, or frustrated. Then she brings up the topic she knows he usually resists. He gives in quickly, thinking it is just easier to agree. It feels like peace, but it is quiet surrender. She wins by timing, not by strength. Number 15. A man's routine can become his emotional leash. Men often find safety in habit, but in psychology, habits make people predictable. A woman who learns a man's patterns can influence them subtly. Imagine she knows he goes to the gym every morning. She starts texting him right before he leaves, saying something supportive. Soon his workout feels incomplete without her message. What began as coincidence becomes ritual, and rituals build dependency. She does not need to demand attention. She simply becomes part of his autopilot. That is control through consistency. Number 16. A man's protectiveness can override his logic. The protective instinct is deeply biological. It activates faster than reasoning. A woman who subtly triggers it can bend behavior without confrontation. Imagine she tells a story about someone treating her unfairly, her tone soft, her eyes low. Instantly, the man feels anger toward the invisible offender. He offers help, advice, or defense. She just shifted his emotional state by presenting vulnerability in a controlled way. Once his mind moves into protection mode, his judgment quiets and she directs his focus wherever she chooses. Number 17. A man's desire to appear strong makes him hide weakness. In social psychology, image management drives behavior more than truth. Many men would rather act fine than admit discomfort. A clever woman can use this to her advantage. Imagine she says, "You seem upset," and he quickly denies it. She then adds, "I like that you stay calm under pressure." He feels rewarded for pretending strength, even if it is fake. Over time, he performs the version of himself she praises. She is not following him, she is programming him through approval loops disguised as admiration. Number 18. A man's curiosity can lead him into emotional traps. Curiosity activates reward circuits in the brain, similar to problem-solving addiction. A woman who knows how to spark curiosity keeps a man invested without commitment. Imagine she tells him, "You remind me of someone, but I cannot say who." His mind starts looping, wondering, guessing, trying to solve it. The more he thinks, the deeper the emotional imprint becomes. She never reveals the answer, and he keeps engaging to close the open loop. Mystery becomes leverage when curiosity becomes the bait. Number 19. A man's silence can be turned into guilt. Some women know how to weaponize quiet moments. In conversation analysis, humans interpret silence as emotional tension. Imagine a man saying something firm, then she just goes quiet, expression unreadable. He begins to fill the silence, explaining himself more and more, softening his stance to ease the discomfort. She never asked him to. She simply let the silence do the work. Every unnecessary word he speaks becomes a surrender of position. Silence, used strategically, can make men talk themselves out of power. Number 20. A man's need to be understood can be used to exhaust him. Many men crave to be fully seen and understood, but over-explaining drains emotional strength. A woman who senses this lets him talk, asking calm, deep questions that make him open more than he planned. Imagine her asking softly, "Why do you think you are like that?" He answers, feeling safe, but reveals vulnerabilities that she now stores as leverage. She can use that information later to steer future arguments. The act of being deeply heard feels like connection to him, but for her it can quietly be strategy.